All right, everyone, I have that it is 2:30, so we're going to go ahead and start. Welcome to this course in the module on engaging families. This is Course C, Collaboration and Communication with Families. I'll give you more information in a moment about the other courses in this module, but they're all standalone. So if you haven't been to the others, that is completely all right. I am coming to you from Solved Professional Development. We are a NYSED CTLE approved vendor. So you will be receiving a CTLE credit for attending this course. And at the end of the course, I will share with you how you will get your credit as well as how you can register for other courses for CTLE credit. So welcome, and I'm so glad you're here today. My name is Dr. Caroline Hoppenwasser. I'm your presenter today. I'm an instructional consultant for Solved, as well as a doctor of literacy education. So I've spent the past 25 years as an educator in public schools and also in teacher preparation. So I started my life as a kindergarten teacher and for 14 years worked at SUNY New Paltz, working with teacher candidates. So I'm now happy to be here sharing this information with you today. Please tell me in the chat a little bit about you. What grade or grades or subjects do you teach, or what is your role in your school environment? Also, just to get things started, what emoji did you send last? I'm gonna check my phone and see what I sent last. Laugh until you're crying. Nice. This is the one I sent last. The little smiley with the cheeks. We've got fourth grade. We've got pre-K. We've got 3K1. Thank you for chiming in today. Sixth grade. Wonderful. I hope these laughing till you were crying were okay and not really crying. We got 4, 5 self-contained. What brings all of us together, no matter what grade, what subject, what is our role in the school? It's families. All students come from families that we want to communicate with and build rapport with. So, ooh, somebody sent some love kisses as their last emoji. Yes. So let's look at our norms today as you continue to check in, and I continue to admit some people from the waiting room. And I want you to know this green box, start and end on time. I promise you, we started at 2:30 and we will end at 3:30. So if you're just coming into the room, we're sharing who we are, what we teach, or our role in the school, and the last emoji we used. Oh, I see a heart. Lovely. Fourth grade, 811, all subjects. Okay, so be here now, take an inquiry stance. I will invite you to participate in the chat as well as come off mute and talk to us. So I would love it if you are able to do that today. Let's look at here's where we are in the course structure of engaging families. We're on course C, and the next 3 Mondays, I'll be teaching courses D, E, and F. So you can also, I'll share with you at the end of this presentation how you can take these other courses, either synchronously or asynchronously. So more information will be coming on that. And here's our agenda today. We have 2 essential questions. How can I improve my communication with families? And how can I improve the way I engage families as learning partners? So our objectives are become familiar with forms of effective one-way and two-way communication across learning environments. And across learning environments is a term that New York State Ed is using as they try to navigate moving from entirely online during the pandemic to I guess what they want to call return to normalcy, but we don't want to forget all of the great things we learned about using technology effectively. So across learning environments is just we can think of it as a sliding scale from completely online to completely in person. So how can we set up really effective communication using a range of modalities? Assess the ways I engage families as learning partners and set some improvement goals for engaging families. So here we go. Thank you for coming into the chat and introducing yourself. Welcome, and we're glad you're here today. All right, so the next thing I'm going to share with you is our note catcher. I will put a link to it in the chat. You're going to open it and make a copy. I'm going to do that now, show you what it looks like. Just click make a copy, and you will have all of the activities that we're doing today, as well as links to the resources we're going to use today. So if you have any difficulty opening that, please let me know and I'll try and help you navigate that. So here is our note catcher. Let's go back and see what we're going to do today. Here's activity 1. We have 2 statements here. Statement 1 says, all families can be involved in their child's education. And statement 2 says, I can help all families in my class to be involved in their children's education. So what I want you to think about with your note catcher today, you have both statements there, is consider the similarities and differences between these 2 statements and take notes in your personal note catcher. I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute for you to do that, and then be prepared to share in the chat, or I will invite you to come off mute. What do you notice about the difference between those 2 statements? What's similar, and what impact does that have for you as a person who works with children? So I'm setting the timer for 1 minute right now for you to have time to think and jot. And if you've just come in and have not gotten the note catcher, I've just put the link to it in the chat again. So if you're just coming in, we're doing the first activity that's on the note catcher. I've just put the link in the chat, so go ahead and open that. All right, our minute to think is up. So I would appreciate your feedback in the chat. What did you notice? Or I invite you to come off mute and share with us today. If you've just come in, we're thinking about the similarities and differences between these 2 statements. And I am continuing to let people in. So if you've just came in, here's our note catcher. Anyone willing to talk to us? Oh, I see something in the chat. It got lost. There we go. So collaboration with families. All families can be involved if it's if they choose to be involved. So that's a really interesting thing to consider about these 2 things. I see Sandra has raised her hand. So please, Sandra, come on and talk with us. Oh, I've lost Sandra. So I'm going to go back to the chat. I think it's important to make families feel comfortable so they know they can be involved. So that's one of the big differences, right? It's where is the control? Where is who's in charge of students, of families being involved? So
Okay,
instead,
Carolyn, I'm able to chat now. Sorry.
thank you. Go ahead.
So I think both statements acknowledge the importance of family participation, but statement two goes a step further and acknowledges that families need to be empowered and facilitated to take that power to find their involvement in their children's education.
What a beautiful way to say that. They need to be facilitated to take that power. They need an invitation. They need possibly some ideas on how to do that. And I think this goes with what Lakeisha has said in the chat, that some parents are not as able to be as involved as we would like. And we have to invite them in a compassionate way. So both of you are saying we have to make some generous assumptions about why parents are not involved and how we as teachers or school professionals can help the families be involved. And what we're going to talk about today in this session are ways we can consider drawing families in and facilitating, as Sandra said, that what the help they need to be involved. So we have statement one welcomes families to be involved, and statement two involves a collaboration of staff guiding families. Yes, we've got to help support the families. And one of the steps we have to do is figure out, well, what are some of the barriers? What is keeping these families from being involved? So let's continue on. Thank you for that thoughtful discussion and for sharing. So there's been some research on how the pandemic affected parent-school communication. There was a survey, and the report was more than 3/4 of educators said that parent-school communication increased during the pandemic. So that may not be your experience, but in this survey, it says more than 3/4 of educators surveyed said that it increased, and more than a third, 37%, said it increased a lot. And so one of the things to consider is why, and what is the impact of that we can see on student learning, and how can we continue to find ways to keep it moving. How did the pandemic affect parent-school communication continued? Says just 9% said parent-school communication decreased. 79% of educators who said parent communication increased said that the upswing in communication had a positive impact on academic outcomes. Yeah. So you can Renissa, have you come off mute to share?
No, sorry. Oh my goodness.
That's okay. Just checking. I'm just going to mute you then. So you can think about this, if this was your experience or not. But what we're going to consider now are, all right, let's imagine what it was that happened that allowed more parents to participate when the pandemic happened in those states, places it did. And let's expand that conversation by thinking about types of communication. So we said in our agenda today, we're going to think about effective one-way and two-way communication. So both kinds of communication you're using currently. Let's talk about what they are. One-way communication, the intended outcome is for the recipient to be a listener or a learner. And so examples of that are a classroom newsletter, a flyer of an upcoming event, or you may have been using recorded video messages. So it's you sharing information with families, and it goes one way. Two-way communication is an interactive experience that engages both the sender and receiver in sharing information such that everyone listens and everyone learns. And examples of that are asking questions to parents, having conferences. A lot of people, when I say this, say Class Dojo, maybe your school uses that. So both of these types of communication have advantages and disadvantages. So let's think about those together right now. So let's think about one-way communication. The intended outcome is for me as the teacher or the school to tell you as the family information. So what are some advantages or disadvantages that you can think of for one-way communication? And you can either put them in the chat or you can come off mute and share with us. And I just have to say, if you're looking at the where you can see who's on, there is a lovely person with us named Sharon, and her little avatar is a little rabbit creature, and periodically it blinks, and it is blowing my mind because it looks like it's alive. So thank you, Sharon. That's making me very happy today. So what are some disadvantages or advantages to one-way communication? Think about things that you do that are one-way communication with families. I'm going to go here so I can write. So for example, one advantage is it's quick. You can get information out to a lot of people quickly. But if we think about disadvantages, there's not a way for parents to respond or ask questions. Oh, here we go. Disadvantage, you don't know if it sticks. Beautiful. Yeah, so you don't know if it sticks. Not able to question. Don't know if it sticks. I'm looking in the chat right now. Not personalized. That's definitely a disadvantage. It's not personalized. So you have to use it sometimes. You need to get information out to a large number of people in a quick way. This is a great way to do it, but you know there's going to be some disadvantages that you're not going to know if everyone understood it. They're not going to be able to ask questions. Depending on how you send it, if you send it by paper, you're not going to even know if it got there. Yes, it says sometimes flyers and newsletters get lost and it's not personalized. So we have to weigh the advantages and disadvantages. For two-way communication, where we have a dialogue, everybody is able to listen, everyone's able to learn, what are advantages and disadvantages that you see to that? Joel has, parents can have a chance to collaborate. That's a definite advantage of two-way. Oh, he said can't, so that's the other one, but we're going to turn it into a positive, Joel, of two-way communication. Oh, that's okay, Jacqueline. You dismissed your kids at 2:45 and came here. Good job. So when we think about two-way communication, advantages are parents can collaborate. They can do all of these things that we said were disadvantages here. So they're able to question. We can find out and understand more if it sticks, and we can personalize it. So what could possibly be a disadvantage of it? I'm just going to put some of the thoughts here. The main disadvantage that teachers share with me about this one is that it takes a lot of time. And as we all know as teachers, that is your most valuable resource, is time. You are always looking for more of it. So let's now think about our second activity, which is reflection and action. So on your note catcher, and I'm going to put the link to the note catcher in the chat for anyone who's come in just now. Hold on one second while I pull that up again and put it in the chat for people who are just coming in. Doesn't want me to do that. Here we go. So if you've just come in, here's our note catcher. And we're going to be on, you're going to have a table that looks like this. So let's talk about it a little bit together first. You're going to think of your ways you communicate currently, and you're going to break them down by this table and do some noticing and reflecting. So here's an example of a one-way communication. You want to notify families about an art show and the virtual participation option. So the purpose is just to share the date and the link. And the intended outcome is that families will be aware of it. Very simple. So we can say, all right, we need one-way communication. Is there a virtual option? Because New York State's now asking us all to think about learning across environments. So can we do an in-person option? Are there online options still available? So we can include as many people as possible and bring families in who can't come in person or prefer to come in person. So yes, we're going to provide a link for families who can't attend in person. And then the next part of thinking about our communication is the language that we use. So we want it to be very inclusive. And what research has shown is that we want to use inclusive language for families, such as we, speaking about us as a team for your children, or you, I'm inviting you. So we are happy to share your child, you are invited, your participation is important, our students. So that's an example of one-way communication. Let's look at an example of two-way communication. So now you want to schedule a teacher-family meeting. And the purpose of that communication is to schedule the meeting, and the outcome is select a date, time, and a method, in person or virtual, as well as a survey on topics that the family would like to discuss with you. So you have a lot of information that needs to be a give and take for this. So you obviously are going to need some two-way communication. Is there a virtual option? Yes, you offer a scheduling app. So, or families can respond with the best time. And when you think about the inclusive language, I would like to schedule a meeting with you. We can meet to discuss. You are welcome to share your ideas on what you would like to cover in this family meeting. So now it's your turn. You're going to go to your note catcher and you're going to use the chart to fill out an example for yourself, considering communications you have sent out this year or you're planning to send out this year, and answer the reflection questions below. So you have a space in the chart and you have a place for reflection questions. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to think about this and take some time to fill out your chart and reflect, and then we'll discuss. Your time starts now. And I will also put the note catcher link in the chat one more time right now for anyone who needs it. Okay, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to go to breakout rooms so you can discuss with colleagues some ideas you've had and things you noticed in the reflection questions about what do you notice about your communications with families, what's working, what's not working, and see and learn from each other. So I'm about to open the breakout rooms. You'll be able to go. You'll have about 5 minutes there to discuss, and then we'll come back to the main room. Are there any questions about what we're doing? Okay, when you go to breakout room, it's fine if you can't come off camera, but always know it's helpful to your colleagues to be able to see your smiling face at the end of the day. All right, rooms are open. As you return to our main room, please feel free to put in the chat something you discussed that was helpful or a question you have. All right, now we have everyone back. So please put in the chat something you discussed or a question you have. And as you do that, I'm going to move on to our next part of our presentation today. Things go so quickly in this hour. So we're now going to look at the 3 categories that we can consider when we think about families as partners. So there, eTeach New York has put together a resource that details 3 focus areas that can build our capacity for engaging effectively with teaching partners at home. And these 3 areas are relationships, resources, and routines. So relationships are the positive connections that foster interaction and establishing a nurturing environment of trust and support. So we can look at communication and feedback, roles and responsibilities, and well-being and structures. And we're going to go into more detail. You're going to get to choose and go into more detail with one of these. We also have routines, rehearsed and predictable practices that provide structure to support efficient and effective learning. So as a teacher, you use these in your classroom, and now we're just thinking about how to expand them to the learning with families and creating partnerships. So routines of organizational and study skills, support structures, and attendance and engagement. And finally, we have resources, materials, tools, and supplies to support active learning and skill development in the learning environment, the instructional tools, and technology tools. So here's what we're going to do now. On your note catcher, and I'm also going to put this link in the chat, we're going to go to the Families as Partners workbook. I'm going to ask that you open it. Here it is. And you're going to choose one area of focus. So it's either going to be relationships, routines, or resources, and they're color coded. And there is an assessment. It looks like this. If you choose relationships, you're going to come in, you're going to read and give yourself a score. You can see 1 is I haven't thought about it yet, or it's not a priority, to 5, I'm successfully implementing it. And what's great about this is it's going to score it for you down below as you fill out the resource. We don't even have to do math today after school. So you're either going to put families as partners, you're going to, you're going to pick relationships, routines, or resources, and you're going to go to that section of this document and take the assessment. So you'll be blue if your relationships, routines is green, and resources is red. And I'm going to give you about 4 to 5 minutes to take the assessment. So just put in the chat which color you're going to take the assessment more to find out more about what you're currently doing. What are your strengths and areas of need in this part of relationships with families? And if you have questions about those directions, please let me know. All right, we have one person's going in for routines. What else are y'all going to focus on out there? Resources. So again, you're going to pick your color and go and take your assessment. Relationships, we've got a nice mix. And you'll be able to take the others at a later time because you will have the link to it in your note catcher. So I'm going to set a timer again. All right. If you haven't finished the assessment, that's fine. I'm going to share with you how we're going to build on that, and then you have time to finish it. And if there's anything that you've noticed that you thought was very interesting, please share it in the chat. The next step is extending knowledge. So hopefully from this assessment, you've seen, oh, these are some things that I'm doing well, and these are some things I'd like to focus on. So I'm going to provide for you in a Padlet different resources that you can use to learn more in areas of interest. So here is our Padlet. I just put the link for you in the chat. It's also on your note catcher. So each of these boxes has a different resource, and you can click on it and it will take you to it. So we've got different conferencing and co-teaching resources, different ways to use technology, engagement, and resources for parents. And so this thing is chock full of resources, more than you can possibly engage with in this PD, but I'm also going to give you some time in this PD to engage in it. So here's our agenda. You can finish your assessment, or you can go straight to looking at resources of interest, so that you can choose some ideas you would like to implement when you go back to your classroom. And then at the end, I'll wrap up by explaining to you about our CTLE credits and how you can have more credits. So right now is your time to explore. So if you have any trouble accessing the Padlet, please let me know. Otherwise, please take some time to find some resources that are helpful to you. And as you're wrapping up your exploration, I'd love it if you would share in the chat any of the following: what you noticed or wondered. What did you learn that could help you improve current communication practices? And what's something you'd like to try in your classroom? And as you do that, I'm going to share with you more information about CTLE credits here. The big question. Hold on, I'm trying to stop my timer. There it is. Okay, so please feel free to share in the chat. I'd love to hear something that stood out to you today in your exploration that you might like to try. But now I'll share with you what you really want to know. How did these CTLE credits come to you? You should receive an email within 24 hours with your CTLE credit. If you don't, I'm going to share with you what to do about that. But first, let me tell you, on your note catcher, you have these QR codes, but we have, in addition to more family module PDs, other modules that are all free to you through Solved and New York State Ed. So you can come to synchronous classes like today, or you can register for asynchronous classes. There's students with disabilities, English language learners, social emotional learning, as well as families and teaching across learning environments. So please feel free to use these QR codes and register for more. When you get your email with your CTLE credit, Solved will also give you a unique referral code. And if you refer any NYC DOE staff members to any of the synchronous or asynchronous courses, refer 6, and they use this special code you have, Solved will automatically send you a $50 Amazon gift card for your classroom. So if this was helpful to you, go share that information with your colleagues to see if you can get yourself some money for your classroom. All right, we also ask that you fill out a survey. You'll get your CTLE credit regardless of whether you fill it out or not. It's just something we do here at Solved to ask for help. Oh, I see people putting things in the chat. Thank you. Interested in looking into the Padlet for different resources? I'm so glad it was helpful to you. Developing a plan together with parents on how to handle a child rearing issues helps you move forwards as partners instead of competitors. Oh, it's so beautiful. I like this saying, as definitely work with parents more. It's better that the kids see you as a team, right? So we want to move forward as partners instead of competitors. I love it. So please use the last 5 minutes of our time together to fill out this survey that I just put the link for in the chat. I also would like you to feel free to unmute right now to ask any questions or put them in the chat. If you have questions later about any of the content today, you can email me at caroline.hoppenwasser@solvedconsulting.com. If you have questions about CTLE credits, so if in 24 hours you don't receive your link, just send an email to admin@solvedconsulting.com and they'll help you. So take a screenshot or a photo of this slide and you can get in touch with us easily if you need help. And once you have opened your survey and filled it out, or if you'd like to fill it out after you leave, you can. Feel free to go and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again in a future PD session with Solved.